Paperwork creates clutter. And I'm not just talking about physical paperwork. Nowadays, the digital paperwork is just as much, if not more, of an issue. Our email boxes are overflowing, our Google Drive or OneDrive or desktop or all of the above are just a jumbled mess of unsorted downloads. It's overwhelming to look at, we don't know where anything is, we've forgotten what we have, and there's no way to sort through what's important and what isn't. If this sounds familiar to you, stay with me. No matter what kind of information you have cluttering up your space, the system I have for you today will help you to keep it all organized, whether it's on your computer or on your desk. So as I go through each of these parts, I'm going to give you tips for using them in your email, in your digital storage, and in your physical storage. I'll even give you some tips on combining the different types of information. This method primarily comes from the Getting Things Done system by David Allen, which you can check out if you're interested. I'll put a link to his website in the description below. I'm just putting my own spin on it. So no matter what paperwork you're dealing with, there are 4 main categories, either digital or physical, that you'll want to divide everything into. So those categories are ongoing, number 1, in process, number 2, your waiting room, number 3, and reference, number 4. And that's it. But before I go into those categories, I'm going to start with something else. The very first thing you want is an inbox. This is where everything is going to go that's currently unsorted. So if you're trying to organize from scratch right now, then there's likely a lot that's going to be going into your inbox. If you're in your email, then the inbox is already set up for you. Congratulations, it's probably overflowing with tons of mail. Great. If you're in your digital storage, create a new folder, label it inbox, and put a little asterisk in front of that name, in front of the I in inbox. And I like to do this because if you go back into it later and you're using that inbox, it's going to stay at the top of your list alphabetically and not get lost in the shuffle among all of your other folders. Then start putting all of those files that are unsorted in that new folder. They can be documents, videos, presentations, doesn't matter, just put them in the folder. If you're organizing your desk, your physical desk, then this can be a folder, but it might be easier to have some sort of a tray or a bin where you're going to stack everything up, especially if there's a lot of it. So then put any random paper, sticky notes, files, brochures, business cards, anything you have that isn't currently sorted, put it in that tray. The goal is to empty the inbox. Again, if you're organizing for the first time, then there may be a lot in there right now, but eventually you'll be clearing this out daily. Nothing should stay in your inbox for more than a day. That includes your email inbox. Once everything is gathered together, it's time to start sorting. You want to go through each individual item and figure out where it's going to go. So I mentioned the 4 categories, but before we even get into them, there might be a few items that you have that are just going to go straight in the trash. So as you're going through, if there's anything that doesn't seem like it goes in any of the other categories, it's not something you need, throw it in the trash. Alright, so going into the categories where we're going to be sorting everything from the inbox. Category number 1 is the ongoing folder. So this is where you're going to put items that you refer to regularly. And this can be a schedule for upcoming meetings, a list of important dates, contact information, your monthly budget, anything that you are probably going to want easy access to. You likely won't need the ongoing folder in your email. If you do happen to have any emails that you refer to frequently, just download them or print them off and sort them somewhere else. For digital storage, make another folder with another little asterisk before its name, label it ongoing, or something else if you prefer, as long as you know what it means. Then simply put any items that you refer to frequently in that folder. For physical storage, you might still use a folder as you would online, or you might have it in a binder. Maybe you'll have these things up on the wall in front of you where you can look at them. You want them to be somewhere where you can access them very easily, because this is stuff you're going to be looking at a lot. So find what works best for you, and anything that you have ongoing, keep it all in the same place. The next category we're going to be sorting into, moving some of those things out of your inbox, is going to be the in-process area. So this is a folder for paperwork that you're currently working on, And you want to keep the items in this folder in the high priority part of your brain. What makes this one different from the ongoing area is that once you're finished with the items here, then you'll be moving them somewhere else. Maybe you're creating a presentation for a meeting. Perhaps you're writing your lesson plans for the week. It could be a form that you need to fill out and send back. You also want to have something in your ongoing folder that lists all of your current in-process items. That way, that ongoing folder, that folder that you look at frequently, that's easy to access, that's going to also have a space where you can easily look at all of the things you have in process, keeping them at the top of your mind so nothing gets pushed to the side, nothing gets forgotten about. Ideally, you don't want to have more than 4 to 5 in-process items at a time. Less is better here because you want to finish those tasks and move on to other things. If you have too many things in your in-process folder, that's probably a sign that you're working on too much at a time. So this is the first one where you may want to have this label in your email. So if you have multiple labels already in your email, then put that little asterisk at the top. You might want to put the asterisk there anyway because eventually you might be having other labels in there, but we'll get to those later. And that way anything that you're currently working on can go into your in-process folder. I often put emails in there if I'm planning to print off something or read it, but I don't have time to do that right now. And also if there's anything that I need to take some action on, but I just don't have time for it at the moment, like filling out a form. Just make sure you're looking at that in-process folder frequently so that you remember what's in there. For your digital storage, you'll treat this the same as your other folders, so you want to put that little star in front of the name, and put anything that you're currently working on in there so it's easy to access. When it's finished, you can decide, are you going to move it to the trash can, or is it going to become reference material? And it might help to have multiple folders inside of that digital folder so you can keep it even more organized. So let's say you're working on 2 projects right now. Both of them have multiple files. You can have 2 folders inside of your in-process folder, one for each of the projects. And again, for physical storage, if you're at your desk, this one might look a little bit different because sometimes the projects that you're working on don't fit in a folder. Let's say you're currently building a new deck. Then there really isn't a good way to stick that deck into a filing cabinet. But this is where having that list of ongoing projects, that list in your ongoing folder is going to help you out because you can always look back on it and remember which projects you're in the middle of, what you're currently doing. It's still good to have an in-process folder somewhere at your desk as well because sometimes you will just have paperwork that you're working on that you can stick in there, but it might not look the same as it would online. All right, the third category is the waiting room. And this is stuff that you're going to get to when you can, but right now you're either waiting on someone else to do it or you're just waiting until you're ready to do it. So just like with the in-process folder, this folder should have a list somewhere in your ongoing folder that you can look at frequently. I like to combine the waiting room and the in-process sort of into one document. That way you can look at them both quickly and easily and sort of see what you're in the middle of. I would say that the waiting room document is even more important than in-process because the waiting room items are often things we forget about. They're things that we're just waiting on, but if we don't keep them in our mind, we can completely forget what we have going on. So let's say perhaps you need your doctor to sign off on a medical form, but you won't be in to see him until next week. That form can go in the waiting room. Maybe you need to ask a client. Maybe you had a client ask you a question, but you didn't have the information that he needed. You needed to email somebody else and get that information. So that email can go into the waiting room until you get back the information that you need and are able to respond. Another good use of this folder is to keep confirmations for orders that you've had. That way when you order the product, you get the order confirmation, you can put it in the waiting room, and then when the item arrives, you can take it out of the waiting room. That's just a good place to remember what you've ordered and make sure everything is accounted for. There are also some specific things that you may want to create a separate spreadsheet for in the ongoing folder. So let's say you provide a service and are waiting to receive payment from multiple customers. it would help to have their invoices saved in your in waiting folder, but also have a spreadsheet in the ongoing folder that lists all of the outstanding balances and when the invoices were sent. This folder is also where you're going to keep track of any projects that you're planning to do in the future sometime, but you just don't have the time for them or the ability to do them right now. But that way at least you'll remember, hey, this is something that I want to do. The final storage area is reference. However, you don't want to have a folder that just says reference. You can if you want to, if maybe you don't have a lot of stuff to sort, but it's best to have your reference material all grouped together into different categories to make it easier to find. So this is why it's a good idea to have an asterisk in front of your organizational folders. That way, once you have lots of reference folders in there, your organizational folders are going to stay at the top because they have that little symbol in front of them. You may have past budgets stored here, you might have important memos, you might have animal videos, whatever you happen to have, put it into some sort of reference. So if you're doing this digitally, just make sure to rename anything that isn't currently searchable. So in theory, you can find whatever you need once you sort it into other similar folders, but sometimes we forget where we put things. Maybe we think it could go in this folder, but it's not in there, it's actually in a different folder. It seems like it gets lost. The nice thing about computers is that we have the ability to search. So just make sure it has a name that's easily searchable. Again, for physical papers, this might not be in folders. You might keep your business cards in a small box on your desk, your recipes in the kitchen, your owner's manuals in a drawer. Just make sure that you have everything grouped with other similar items and you know where it all is. And once you've gone through all those categories, everything in your inbox should be clear. And then going forward in the future, anything that ends up in your inbox, check right away. Is it trash? Is it something that you're going to be working on for a bit that's going to be in process? Is it something that you maybe need to wait on? Is it going to go into the waiting room? Or is it some reference material? Whatever it happens to be, put it in the right spot. Personally, I have a notebook that I use when it comes to helping me keep track of things that I'm going to be working on. So I have a page in my notebook, that's my inbox. Anytime something comes into my head, anytime I'm told something, anytime I need to remember anything, I put it on a note and I stick it onto my inbox page, and then when I get the chance at some point in the day, I'll go through all those little sticky notes and decide where they're going to go. For my in-process items, I have a projects page. I actually have 2 projects pages, one for at home and one for at work, and that way I can look and see what projects I'm currently in the process of. And I have a separate page where I put all of the tasks that I'm working on from those projects. For a lot of things in the waiting room, it also helps to have them on your calendar somewhere. So if you put reminders on there to make sure that you get them out at a certain time. I mentioned earlier that doctor's note. When you have your doctor's note on the calendar, also make a note on there to bring in that medical form. This also is helpful even if it's not something that's scheduled. Let's say you lent your neighbor your ladder. Hopefully your neighbor's going to return it on his own within a few days. But if he doesn't, put a reminder on your calendar in, say, a week to go over and check and see if you can get your ladder back. That way you don't end up in a situation several months in the future where you don't remember where your ladder is. Or maybe you just want to use it and your neighbor isn't home so you can't do what you wanted to do. So having those reminders to be able to go back and just remember little things in your waiting room are definitely good to have on your calendar. Another tip for combining your physical storage with your digital storage is that if you do like to jot down notes on paper, maybe do drawings or something like that, but you have difficulty keeping track of all of them, take a picture of what you have and then file that picture into your digital storage somewhere. If it's part of a project, you can file it with your project. If it's reference material that you just want to look back on, you can file it in a folder that it would make sense to put it in. And then you can either throw that image in the trash, whatever you wrote down, or if you do want to keep it, have another file in your physical storage where you can keep all of those. That way everything stays organized. And that's about it for today. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for ways that you manage to keep yourself organized. I'll be making more videos in the future going over other tips and tricks that are going to help you out. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Now go get your life together.